Don't fuck up. Don't fuck yourself. I've already fucked it up. God damn it. I didn't fuck myself. It was way better the first time. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Rude Cooking School podcast. I'm your host, John Hauser III, and with me is a living legend, an old school blogger, a writer, a reviewer, a man who knows computers, a man that can see into your soul, a man who has eaten things you only dream about, Mr. Jason Perlow. Hey, man, what's up?
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Hamburger joints on the shoulder of Orion. No, okay,
Let's start this conversation over.
All right.
I fucked it up because I fucked it up. I pressed record in Zoom and then I forgot to press.
Well, I hope you see waveform on your end on the Godacity, man. Okay.
No, I see. I'm good. I've been fucking with. I've been recording in Audition, and I got a new computer, and it doesn't want to recognize my Audio file. Hey, let's look behind the kimono here a little bit.
Are you using Windows or are you using a Mac?
Windows, yeah.
That's why you're all screwed up.
Yeah, but my last laptop was perfectly fine. I got a brand new laptop, and I thought it'd be fine, and no. So now it's all shitty and pissy, but whatever. What were we talking about?
We were discussing your pre-show drink.
My pre-show drink, which is Roku vodka. I mean Roku gin,
awesome stuff.
Elderflower liqueur, lime juice, fresh lime juice, and just soda water. I have a soda stream, and because normally the only things I drink are booze and water. Like I rarely drink anything else, and all day I just drink water. And
we have very similar, alcohol habits. I also have a soda stream, great product from Israel, fully support it.
Is it really?
It is made in Israel, and they employ a lot of Palestinians to help them make it. By the way, it's one of the most productive factories in Israel. People from both sides of the fence work there, and they've never had any problems. So it is possible. I go through like liters of that crap a day.
It's great.
Yeah, but I like it. It's when you have to swap that charge bottle, man. You have to go into the Bed Bath and Beyonds, which no longer exists, and now you have to find alternative sources for it. It's like
do you have Ace Hardware down in Florida?
We probably do. My wife ends up picking the bottles from other different Ross or wherever the heck she goes, or whatever department.
They have it at the Safeway here too.
Okay, it's possible.
I was like, oh, that's weird because I've only seen that within like the last, I guess maybe 4 or 5 months.
Yeah,
they actually have the bottles, but yeah, the bottles are a pain in the ass. But when
they have a lot of distribution. I tell you that Roku is a great. I love gins because they are. Every gin is different, and the flavor profile of all the different botanicals that they use in them is all across the board. I mean, Roku is a very different gin, for example, from something like Hendrix.
Hendrix is by itself, yeah, and I think Roku and Hendrix are both by themselves.
They're both very, very different. And Hendrix has got like 9 different versions because they come up with special seasonal blend. The
Nocturne and the Orbital and all that weird.
Yeah,
shit.
well, I mean the head gin master is a woman, so she's into like floral, kind of combinations and stuff. So it's very interesting. But I love a good gin and tonic, and I love a good pure martini. A real gin martini, and I tend to like I like martinis all over the map. I mean, I like them dirty. I like them dry. I don't discriminate against martinis. I don't discriminate against most alcoholic drinks. I mean, if you serve me something, I'm probably going to drink it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Roku I found a few years ago and was like, oh, this is this is exactly what I want. It's not too juniper-y. It's also not too, and I love Hendrix, but sometimes Hendrix gets in the way of itself when you just want a normal drink. And funnily enough, it was Hendrix that got me into gin. Like I wasn't a gin drinker until it was like 2009 or 10. I went to Spain. and we were going to Ferran Adria's brother's tapas bar that was, weirdly enough, 2 blocks away from where we were staying. And we went there the first night we were in town in Barcelona. I'm sorry, Barcelona. And then they were like, "Oh, we're full. Go across the street and sit at the bar, and then we'll come and get you." And we were like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's a gin bar. You'll be fine." And we were like, "Okay." And we went over there, and they gave us. We were like, "Fuck it, let's just try what they had," because it literally was just all they served basically was gin. You got this giant fucking fish bowl that what we ordered was, and it's still to this day my favorite drink with gin, but it's Hendrick's, fresh lime juice, rose water, and soda.
Yeah, that's probably the modification.
And a little bit of simple syrup.
Yeah, I mean, a gimlet is a great cocktail. I mean,
but the rose water fucking throws it into a.
It adds a little extra something, right? But yeah, like gins are also. I didn't grow up liking gins either, because like you grew up like the gin is like Gordon's or something
right.
like basic Smirnoff or whatever.
It tastes like you're sucking Santa's dick or something, right?
It's
all
terrible.
Pine trees and shit. Yeah,
it's freaking terrible. But
I don't know. By the way, I don't know why Santa's dick tastes like a pine tree, but. That's just what
it probably has certain candy cane notes with a little bit of like a musky sort of a reindeer essence coming off of it. You know, I think that's probably what it is.
Yeah, it's probably pretty ripe from all the thermal underwear from living up in the north too.
Right.
Oh God, where did we just get to? So, okay, genocide, and I think. Some people probably know you. Some people don't. The people that are part of this this podcast Facebook group knows you because you are a constant contributor to the Facebook group.
I'm a constant pain in the ass, yes.
Well, that too. But you're constantly posting about things that you're cooking or eating. Where are you at in Florida?
So I live in Coral Springs, which is a city of about 135,000 people in western Broward County, which is the county that contains Fort Lauderdale and Pompano Beach, that area, right? So like north of Miami. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're constantly like saying like, "Hey, I went to this restaurant. I got this food. Check it out. It's fucking awesome." Or my wife and I made this for our friends, and the food always looks awesome. Like it. But I don't think a lot of people know where I know you from, which is back in ye olden days of the interwebs.
Yeah, back when when you to get onto the internet, you had this thing called a modem, and it made that screechy, horrible fax machine sound when it connected over the phone, kind of thing.
I was somewhere a couple weeks ago, and a kid who couldn't have been no more than 20. One, didn't have their phone on silent. 2, their ringer was that fucking sound, and I instantly wanted to throw the fucking phone against the wall. I was just like, "Oh God, that sound!" Especially when it gets to the bang, bang, bang. When it finally gets there after all the screeching. Yeah,
that thing, right? Yeah,
yeah. It sounds like 8,000 microchips are being murdered at once.
Right.
Oh God. Yeah, but you when I first heard of you, or saw your name, should I say, it was on a cooking, eating, food, repository discussion site called eGullet that you co-founded?
I co-founded, yes. So I am the only living survivor, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The foodie internet basically started, I think, at around like 1998, 1999. And it started with a site called Chowhound, which, by today's technology standard, I mean, technically the name chowhound.com still exists, but it doesn't look like anything like what it was.
It's a ghost of what it was.
It was purchased like 1 million times. But suffice to say, it was one of these discussion bulletin board systems, right? And this is like, years before Facebook or years before Twitter or anything like that. And it was mostly New York City centric, to be perfectly honest. And people would just talk, hey, where's the best Chinese food place where I can get this? And blah, 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 blah. And I was a personality on that. But eventually I decided to go off and form my own because I have a technology background. I said, yeah, you know what? I can build a better one of these that's more user-friendly, that has these features and whatnot. So I founded eGullet.com, which is now eGullet.org. It's a not-for-profit. It still exists, but I'm not involved with it anymore. With a guy named Stephen Shaw, who ended up being a beer award winner. He wrote several books and stuff. So he was kind of like the food heavy guy, and I was the technology sort of guy. Even though I am food heavy now, but back then I did not have the restaurant connections and stuff that he did. Okay. So we built sort of this discussion community around New York City restaurants and such. It exploded in 2001, in September 2001, because of what happened to the New York City restaurant community post 9/11. We had
a terrible way to frame that, by the way.
Well, but it was kind of like people.
2001.
But it is what caused the acceleration.
I know. That's just the way you said it.
Just because we had chefs like, hey, how's everybody doing?
Oh, really? So it became like a place for people to just check in on each other.
They checked in on each other, tried to hire staff. Can we bring you food? So before, before Jose Andres got involved in any of that world food kitchen stuff, during 9/11, chefs were bringing food out to the middle of the street, to help people just because of 9/11. So
sure,
a lot of these things gestated. Careers of many people gestated on eGullet. For example, the guy on the Food Network, what's his name? The Indian guy. What's his name? Simon Majumdar, for example, started his career there. The Julia project started there. Lots of food bloggers got their start there. A bunch of other television people got their start there. Bourdain effectively introduced himself before he ever got on television.
Before he wrote that big article, right?
Before he wrote that big article. I mean, he had just released Kitchen Confidential. When we got online, when we just started. So he was one of our first contributors. We had lots of chefs online that were from New York and from around the country. We got people from California, from all over Europe, and it got pretty big. We had over 100,000 contributors at some point. But that was the very early days of the foodie internet. And yes, I founded it with Stephen. Stephen passed in 2015. We also lost a couple other people. We lost Joshua, the Mr. Cutlets, Zersky, and a few others. And it's interesting that I'm still here. But it's weird, I look back 22, 23 years ago, it's a very different place, the internet. I think, it was more of a community, more of it's trying to find its way in things. We didn't have tech assholes to the extent that we have today. Right. We didn't have like this utter just division of people on social media, this othering of us versus them, and just the level of we had jerk-offs here and there, but not the same level of that it exists today, and I mean, food people can be mean to each other, but I think we tried to keep it a decorum as much as possible. And I think, it was more of a be nice or leave sort of environment. Everybody's like, can you help me with this cooking thing? Where can I find this Chinese ingredient? Where can, it was that kind of the thing,
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, okay, so in preparation for this interview, like you and I have known each other as, Facebook friends or whatever for a few years now. Yeah. But I knew your background because like I got on eGullet around 2002 through Chowhound, I think, because, I went to Chowhound and was there and I was like, oh, this is kind of scratching an itch, and but a lot of people are like, yeah, fuck this place. And I was like, okay, well, what do we do? And then it's like, oh, everybody's over at eGullet. Okay. So I went over there and it's like, oh, okay, these are my people, right? I need, and there was like a Baltimore forum and people would reach out, or, you would just go to like, all right, what's the best way to make blah, right? And then people would just come in and talk about it. And it was that era of the internet where people were actually helpful. And if someone said, oh, well, my mom used to do it this way and I really like it. And then, everybody would be like, oh, cool, but I do it this way. Instead of now it would be like, oh, my mom taught me how to do it this way. And then somebody comes in, well, your mom's a cocksucking whore. Fucking go fuck yourself, you fucking dickhead. Like that's the internet now, right?
That is it now.
And it's so like, fuck you, I'm right. Instead of like, oh, that's cool, I never thought about it that way. This is how I do it.
And I love the food nerd atmosphere of the thing. Like, we could have an 80-page conversation about eggs.
Right.
Which is right, which is where it should be. But what I loved about it was like, like we kind of created the atmosphere for things like, the what's his name at Microsoft that ended up running these gigantic books. What's his name? Merval. So he did his research on eGullet, kind of asking people stuff.
That's where you got to start.
And also pretty much the introduction of sous vide as a technology occurred on eGullet as well.
Which is how he got his start, because he was researching So okay, what I was going to say was I was researching stuff, and there's that article about you on the New York Times.
Yes.
Which is a depressing article to read, because half of the people that are interviewed in that fucking article are dead.
Yes, correct.
Well, Shaw and Ozersky, right?
Yes.
And then other people are just like out of things. It was just a really weird time capsule. And that was only, what was that, like 2008 or 2009?
It might be 2006 or 7 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was pretty crazy to read and just be like, oh my God. And that's sort of the aftermath of your wild ride at eGullet.
Yeah.
When you had left and started your other blog.
Yeah. Off the roller. Yeah.
Right. And at that time you were like, okay, I went to the doctors. I was really heavy. They told me my blood was gravy. I needed to fix that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like the shit in that article was bananas. That motherfuckers were just like, yeah, I don't believe in dieting just because it changes so much. It's not real. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like, yeah, it's a wild, if you're listening to this and you're wondering what I'm talking about, look up Jason's name and New York Times. And
so I will say this. I love food. In terms of my preferred drugs, food is definitely my preferred drug.
Sure.
It's the only drug on this planet that you need to live, right? It's the same. The same thing that you're addicted to is also what allows you to live, right? We need food to live, right? We need food. But I have such a passion for it because I want to eat the best of everything. I want to find all the things, and I want to let everybody know that this stuff is out there. Because the worst thing is like, I'll have a food discussion on my Florida group, and people are like, where could I get X pizza? Oh, this pizza's really good. I'm like, no, that fucking pizza isn't good. It's made out of like, high fructose corn syrup and garbage cheese and garbage. And like, no, instead of going to this horrible chain place, go to a decent local place, go to these guys. And, we'll have like this, this long discussion about who, well, I don't like this place. I like this place. And like, but that's like that we live for this stuff.
Yeah. That's
right?
fun.
Just like if I were to talk about Baltimore, about crabs, or we would have this long discussion about what the best crab place is, or what the best cheesesteak place is, or whatever. I mean, and people are passionate about what they like.
People have their places.
Yeah.
Whether it's good or bad, people have their places,
It's part of our identity because we grow up with these places,
And that said, like you're saying about pizza, like, I love good pizza. I love good Neapolitan pizza. I love good, Chicago pizzas. It's hard to find around here, But Detroit style is like a big thing that's all over the place now.
Yeah.
Baltimore has a very specific one place that does a pizza I've never seen anywhere in my life, and it's right up the street from me, and it's like the inverse of a Chicago. It's really thick and round, and they do that extra cheese so it melts down inside the pan.
Oh man.
To give that weird like crackly glass crust around it.
Yeah.
But it's mainly bread. It's like the inverse of a Chicago, and it's called Matthew's Pizza. It's been there since 1932 or something.
Oh wow.
The pizza's fucking amazing. Like when you go there,
I love all these weird regional variations of foods. Like weird, just like the New York hot dog is different from somebody else's Chicago hot dog, or like it's these like sort of like blue collar food items that I think people get super passionate. People get passionate about all these variations of hamburgers. People get hot dogs, sandwiches. What you call a hoagie or a hero sandwich or a submarine or whatever. All these things that define a city or a metro region, right? Those kind of things that are unique. That it's weird, like in Florida, because everybody's from someplace else, right? Yeah. So, like, I mean, for example, we talk about crabs. I only know like 2 good Maryland style crab places in South Florida. But even still, people are like, well, they don't quite exactly do this right and this way. It's always, you look at it from a hometown lens, right? But everyone's trying to find that thing that they miss from where they used to come from.
Sure.
Right. Whether it's delicatessen or pizza or whatever it is, it's always the pursuit to find that thing from elsewhere, which I think is always, there's fun in it and trying to discover it and find it, but it's also the depressing aspect that it's never going to exactly 100% match where it came from, because some things cannot be duplicated exactly no matter how hard you try.
Yeah, and that's memories. You know what I mean? That's
memory and the feeling that you're in that place eating that thing that it's known for. So you could like I tell people, like people's like, oh, bagels aren't good in Florida. They're not as good in New York. I'm like, no, that's bullshit.
Right.
Because it's in the water. I'm like, no, it's not in the freaking water.
Not at all.
No, because if you're a professional baker, that your water supply is going through a triple or quadruple stage 10 micron filtration system that's removing all the local aspects of your water out of what you're doing. So
that is a New York City myth that it's a water thing.
Totally. In fact, they have to, because the entire New York City water supply is filled with shrimp, tiny little microscopic shrimp, millions of them in each drop of water. If you look up, microscopic shrimp in New York City, you're gonna find some crazy crap.
Okay.
Yeah, New York City water is not kosher. New York City water is not kosher. I can tell you that. And they need sub 10 micron filtration to remove them in like every restaurant. Now, and they were introduced into the water supply to clean the water supply. They're not there just because of mystery. New York City dumped them in there so they could clean the water supply. But so yeah, you whether you're making pizza in California or pizza in Florida, it's going to be if you use the same flour, if you use the same amount of same duration of fermentation, use the same quality of tomatoes and olive oil and stuff, yeah, you're going to have a slight difference in local, bacteriological fauna that causes the fermentation process. You might get a slight difference in sourness or some slight difference in terroir, but not really. Because once you get into like a 3 or 5 day fermentation, and also eventually, if you try to move New York City, bacteria to Florida, you try to keep the mother going or whatever it is, and that yeast will eventually stop.
Turn into Florida.
It will eventually turn into Florida yeast. Like when someone gave us a 400-year-old starter from Italy, but within 2 months, it's not the 400-year-old starter from Italy anymore. It's whatever we're making pizza dough in with that starter. It's Florida flora and fauna. I mean, it is what it is. But no, pizza's all about the dedication to the craft. It's got nothing to do with the freaking water. None of it. Dedication to craft and using quality ingredients.
Well, have you ever eaten at Pauly G's in New York?
I have.
There's a satellite branch here One of my really good friends is the owner. And look at our episode on Pauly G's. Because I interviewed him for like 2 hours, 3 hours. We got hammered. Early days of the podcast. And
right. But he could
just
get his
opened it up.
best pizza guy to run the one around where you live. Probably, well, no, maybe he spent 500 hours of tutelage with this guy, and he'll make it exactly the same specifications. But because you're not in the original Pauly G's location, someone will say it doesn't taste right.
Well, the funny part is, he was such a crazy food blogger, and you know how food people get obsessed about things. He had to eat all the food. He had to eat all the pizza within a 50-mile radius of people that made their own dough. Figure out how it was, hydrated, what kind of water, what kind of flour, what kind of salt, what kind of tomatoes, and then became friends with Pauly G, and then opened up the satellite thing. But then he decided to make vegan pies, and now that's become like a really big thing. And I think his recipes now are at the Pauly G's up in New York, and that's his. There's like a cross pollination thing. It's really interesting to see how that kind of shit, and that's what should happen. There should be a constant motion. You got your famous thing, but innovate a little bit or try to, right? Don't just keep laying on the one thing, because after one note, people get deaf to it. But what I want to ask you is, let's go back way back.
Sure.
What got you into food? What got you into cooking?
Well, here's kind of the weird thing. I grew up as a Jewish kid on Long Island in Queens, and my mother was not a good cook. And both of my grandmothers were not good cooks. One ran art galleries. She was a wonderful grandparent. But she took me out to all the best restaurants in New York City, because she was in the art community,
right.
So she had all her friends that owned restaurants, whatever, that was buying art from her. So I learned good food from my grandmother. My mother and father also loved to go out to restaurants. So I learned about restaurant culture as a child, from
Which
my
is great.
parents. But I didn't really learn how to cook until I went to college. I learned the skill sets from a Sicilian lady who adopted me during college and taught me how to cook, Italian food and stuff, and how to chop and cook and do basic prep. And so I would go out and run and get groceries for her, and she'd make pastas and all kinds of Italian dishes and stuff. So I learned how to cook in college
At American University.
Yes. And when I left American and came back to New York, I went to Wall Street, and I did a lot of computer stuff on Wall Street, and kind of learned the New York restaurant scene, at the time, so I would go out for friends late at night. We would go out for steaks or whatever, or we would, go down to Chinatown late at night, which was still one of the best food places in the entire world, even after, half of them closing down during COVID. Chinatowns are always my favorite place to go eat, Asian food, because that's where the immigrants are, and that's where, it's alive.
About what year are we talking here?
We're talking probably 2000. I mean, I came back from 1990 is when I left DC. So 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, that's back when I was in New York City.
So when you were in DC, did you ever go to, wait a minute, when did you leave DC?
1990.
Yeah, I guess Haleo might have just opened. Did you ever go to Haleo? Well, you were talking about Jose Andres earlier.
Yeah, I've been to Haleo since, but I don't remember going when I was in college. But I will tell you that back then, we had the Adams Morgan's neighborhoods. We had all the Ethiopian food. We had all the Vietnamese food that you could possibly want in DC. Middle Eastern. I mean, DC is a great town just for all the international cuisines, period. Right.
Yeah,
and it's so much more now than it was when I was going to school.
Nobody ever focuses on DC. It's really weird.
No, and it's an amazing town for food. Really amazing town.
Again, another fucking great Chinatown.
Yep.
People sleep on that Chinatown over there, and it's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and but the whole Delmarva region is massive now in terms of, because everything is now spread out. Like, I mean, they were like building Tyson's Corner when I was going to school there.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, that's even weird to think about.
Tyson,
They had to
just
build
put this,
Tyson's Corner, right? Yeah.
and Tyson's too, and all. I saw them building. They just finished Tyson's Corner. Tyson's Corner was brand new when I went to school there. They were just starting to build Tyson's too, and building out the metro stations and all that. So, but that whole town is just blown up in terms of, and it's gotten just the entire metro region. You know, if you're in different parts of Maryland and Virginia, there's just so much stuff on the outskirts of DC right now.
Yeah,
it's so much bigger than it was.
Yeah, that whole corridor down there between like Maryland, DC, and Virginia, like so much different, like you were saying, like crazy Vietnamese food where you get like amazing dim sum. Like it's
very, very underrated food city. But
very you have to travel for it. Whereas like in New York, it's all kind of local.
It's right there. It's all right there.
Or even in DC, it's localized, but you know, to get the good shit, you got to go outside of.
Yeah.
You got to go to the strip malls and shit.
Yeah.
So, okay, you're there and you're working on Wall Street.
Yep. Working on Wall Street and, you know, just kind of investigating the sort of food scene there, you know, because if you're working on Wall Street, you're working late hours. And then, you know, after hours, what do? You hit the bars, you hit the restaurants. Right.
Yep.
So that, you know, it was that. And, you know, I met my wife in like 94. And, you know, she's got a great cooking background. So like, you know, I'm basically her sous chef. I mean, honestly, my wife does a lot of the cooking. My prowess is in like grilling and prep and coming up with dish ideas, you know, and things like that. Like she doesn't really like me touching her kitchen. If I try to get in her kitchen when I don't like really cooking with my wife because she'll just like stab me.
Yeah.
You know, right.
That's how I'm like my wife. Yeah.
Yeah. So like my domain is the smoker and the barbecues, you know, and helping to formulate stuff. I give her ideas and I assist, right? And I do all the food photography, right? But yeah, I'm a decent half-ass cook. You know, if someone asks me to do something, you know, I'm the guy that pulls the espresso shots and makes the lattes and mixes people drinks when they come over. You know, I'm the bartender beverage guy, basically.
Yeah.
Right. You know.
So you're becoming an experienced eater in New York.
Yes. Very much eater,
which I don't think a lot of people really appreciate, like that's actually a thing, right? Like you don't know what you don't know until you know it.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like you don't know what tastes good until you taste it. And it's like when you're talking about pizza, it's like, okay, Papa John's, you grow up with, you're like, oh, that's what pizza tastes like. And then you have fucking like a really good homemade pie, right, or at a place that knows what the fuck they're doing. And it's kind of like, oh, you know, like,
and you got a lot, and there's a lot of domain in pizza, man. I mean, like you got the Neapolitans and 930-degree freaking Italian ovens, you know, with wood. You got the charcoal anthracite ovens, you know, from 100-year-old ovens in various parts of New York City, you know, and like, you know, Pepe's, you know, in New Haven, Connecticut, you know, New Haven's is a big charcoal, a coal-fired pizza town, right? I mean, and there's just so many ways you can look at pizza. I mean, you got the gas-decked ovens, you've got like the Brooklyn, you know, Sicilian pies, you know, the quote-unquote grandma pies and all these different things. You know, there's so much, just within that space, there's so much. So imagine like what that's like for other cuisines, you know, Asian cuisines of all time. I mean, New York City has not just Chinese, but even American Chinese versus real, you know, 7 other regions of Chinese food, you know, Sichuan, Hunan, you know, Fujian, you know, and then you get the Malaysians and the Singaporean cuisine and all that kind of stuff. Shanghainese, you know, dim sum versus other types of dumplings, and like, you know, you got all these sub cuisines of stuff, right? It's like Korean isn't just barbecue, right? Korean is like all the stews, like and all the other street food dishes and all the various different types of kimchis and all the different noodles. It's like we when we go out for a cuisine, especially if you're in like a smaller town or something, like you go to a Korean restaurant, they're going to try to represent as much about Korean food as possible, probably, but a menu has to be curated, right? You can't have all 5,000 things this cuisine offers. You got to have like, tops, 30, 40, 50 things on a really good menu, right?
It's still a lot.
That's still a lot, right? But it's like, yeah. So it's like in New York City, you have sub variations of places, right? I mean, the Koreans can afford to have like 12 different types of Korean restaurants. They can have a cold naengmyeon noodle place. They can have a tofu place. They can have different types of bakeries. They can have dumpling places that will roll out and make fresh dumplings in front of you on 34th Street. They can do that, right? So I am getting exposed to all this different stuff that I've never even seen before, and like, my God, I want to learn all about it.
And building up that taste memory, building up that sort of it's almost like a mental Rolodex of flavor, which I always go back to. It's like, you can see it flipping in someone's head when you ask them, oh, where's the best thing? Right. You can see it finally hits and they're like, oh, you should try this place. But like, building up that thing is the only way you get that is by eating everywhere you can.
Yeah. And seeing past your cultural, hang-ups, because like, it's weird. Like, I'll get in a discussion with, we'll talk about, I don't know, BLT sandwiches, for example. And someone's like, oh, did you put mayo on that? Oh. I'm like, you can't make a BLT sandwich without mayonnaise.
No, you can't.
I bet you eat mayonnaise all the time. I never eat mayonnaise. Oh, I'm like, oh yeah. Well, so when you go out for sushi and they give you that spicy sriracha sauce, what's in it? Well, yeah, I guess there's mayonnaise. Okay, yeah. So when you get a hamburger with like a burger sauce, what's in it? Well, I don't know. Like, yeah, well, it's Russian dressing, pickles, and mayonnaise. Okay, and maybe some ketchup. But like, yeah, you have to have an appreciation for certain things, and you have to get past sort of these weird cultural biases on stuff that makes zero sense.
Yeah, chicken feet are delicious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's one of the big ones for a lot of people. Or even when I was in culinary school, there were people who didn't want to learn how to fillet fish because it had heads on it.
That's crazy.
Like, what the fuck are we talking about? Like, so when you get a fish that's cooked whole and people fucking lose their shit, it's like, what are you doing? Do you not understand what this is? Like, there's a disconnect. And I talked with this to a person I interviewed a couple weeks ago. There's just a disconnect between people and food, and it felt like at one point in the like mid to late 2000s, people and food were getting close to each other, and now it feels like they're getting apart again, where people don't know where their food
I do kind of agree with that, and it's weird. People have become like more picky eaters. Now, maybe it's because we have all these crazy diets that are out now. I think keto and some of these other things do kind of make sense. I don't necessarily if I want to be a keto person all the time, but it makes sense to eat keto dishes. It makes sense to eat vegan and vegetarian dishes sometimes. Yeah. Look, you look at Asian cuisine, a lot of it already is vegetarian, although I've never heard of like a Chinese dish that is, they do have like Buddhist cuisines in China and Korean stuff, but that's not like mainstream stuff, right? They eat vegetables, right?
Right.
And but they might season it with like fermented shrimp paste or something like that, right? Yeah. So, or they're going to use fish sauce or oyster sauce and stuff. So like getting pure vegan or vegetarian cuisine is kind of difficult in certain Asian cultures, but you get the drift. People are, they look at these crazy diets and stuff, and like, I agree that we have to be healthier in the way that we eat things. We need to have more. We can't just look. I definitely think we should be buying good produce. We should buy the best quality proteins that we can. And we should try not to buy processed crap as much as we can.
Right.
But like, for example, like I had someone, I was talking about sushi and someone's like, ooh, this has fake crab on it. I'm like, no, it's not fake crab. It's surimi. And fish. Japan's been eating it for 800 years.
Right. It's fish.
800 years. Yeah. They've been eating surimi, fish cake. Yes. It's part of their culture. You can't not go to Japan and not eat surimi and various different things. It's an art form making it. It's like that doesn't mean it's fake crab. Yeah, it's a 100% true fish, not fake crab.
Yeah.
Authentic fish, yes. So
it's funny. I've actually had a renaissance. Like I've fallen in love with surimi all over again in the last surimi. 2 years because I've been making crab cake. Well, during the pandemic, I started making crab cakes with it because crab in Maryland shot to like $50 a pound. It was fucking nuts. And I was like, well, let's try it with the fake crab with a K. And you know what? It's really good. You just shred it up, put the same stuff in.
Not the same as having a real lump crab.
No, of course not.
Maryland crab, but it
scratches that itch.
It's good, and look, listen. When the sushi guy gives me a little bit of chopped up surimi or a shredded surimi with some seaweed and some mayonnaise and some fish eggs and some spicy
salad,
mayonnaise, man. Oh man, I'll eat that by the freaking gallon, man.
Connie sounds fucking amazing. Yeah,
it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, that shit's great. But yeah, like I don't know. One of the things that I think is happening is there's just a reaction to the farm to table movement that was big.
Yeah.
Christ, at this point, 10, 15 years ago, or whatever it was. And people got tired of knowing where their food came from, where they're like, this beef came from up the street. His name was Bob and he lived in the basement of my uncle's house, and it's like that kind of shit. It's like, I don't give a fuck about Bob. Just give me the goddamn steak. And, people were getting whole fish and people were understanding where their food was coming from. And then it just became homework. And
I think part of it is sort of this negative reaction to cultural elitism. And look, I mean, sure. and back in this, I would say this crap kind of started in 2016, my friend. When we decided that knowledge and education and having being a authority on subjects was looked down upon. I mean, it's ridiculous when I have to have a discussion on some new food group I joined and someone's like, well, what the hell is your background? I'm like, do you really want me to show you my fucking resume? I invented food blogging. How about that?
Yeah.
I invented food blogging and I was on a show with Tony Bourdain. Now, would you like me to add my 19 other fucking resume items? No. Yes, I'm an authority on this subject. I can assure you I'm an authority on this subject. So it's crazy because knowledge, but that's part of the cultural elitism in the food, right? I think there's look, I love all food. Whether we're talking about, you're saying you went to a Ferran Adria's restaurant? Yeah, I can enjoy Ferran Adria in the same way I can go out for a hot dog and go to Nathan's.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't make me lowbrow. It doesn't make me highbrow. It just makes me someone that enjoys life and the experience.
Right.
And I can enjoy haute cuisine, a 34-course tasting menu at Alinea in Chicago, which I did once. That took me like 5 hours to eat it, Yeah. Or, going to a really good burger place or a really good pizza, local pizza place. I don't see the difference between the two because I'm gonna be just as analytical about what I'm eating at Alinea, looking at every single dish and doing macro food photography on it as I will be trying to get all that juice and cheese flowing out of that burger. Right. I'm the same, and I'm going to taste that burger. So was it cooked properly? And I'm a medium rare guy. I'm a massive pain in the ass when it comes to burgers.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
I send burgers back if they're not freaking cooked properly. I am a nightmare for most burger places. In fact, I don't like to eat at most places that call themselves burger places because they're all about the toppings and crap and not about the burger, right? I mean,
yeah, you gotta have a fucking like a shaggy jaw that can unhinge and fit like a giant, Dagwood sandwich in it because the burgers are, foot and a half
it's
tall.
crazy. I see these photos on like Instagram and Facebook with these Dagwood style ridiculous constructed things. And I'm looking at the burgers. I'm like, are those burgers patties cooked properly?
Nope.
No.
They're just dark for the picture.
Right.
They got the burn marks for the picture.
Now there's some hot chick like holding it in the background, like, usually some little Asian girl with this giant hamburger in front of her, or some blonde. But it's weird. Like, and then people ask me like, where's your favorite burger place, Jason? I'm like, well, the one that's making a good one right in front of me. It might be the fish restaurant where I know that the guy takes his time and looks at the damn burger on the grill, makes sure it's cooked properly and times it, or uses a probe to make sure it's cooked right. Because his volume is lower than the hottest burger joint, 2 towns over.
Shake Shack is not good.
They were once good.
Back when they had like one place.
Right. In Washington Square Park. Yeah, exactly.
But now they're fucking a high-end Burger King. Like, I like Five Guys. They're fine enough, but Five Guys doesn't do they don't do a medium rare burger because they're a goddamn chain.
Right.
If you say, hey man, give me it as rare as you can, they'll look at you and kind of wink and go, give you a thumbs up and go, I know what you're saying. But they'll say, well, we can't do that. And I'll just
always order like rare, because like I know that if they try to hit rare, they can't hit rare.
They can't hit
medium rare or towards the medium. So that alone is my personal hell, is not being able to find a burger cooked properly.
I love how everybody on the podcast can't see the like existential crisis you're going through right now, just being like, motherfucker, goddamn burgers, I can't get them anywhere right. God damn it. Like, you're just your hands on your forehead, just like looking down, shaking your head.
Don't go to Canada if you want any kind of medium rare burger, because they will not cook it for you. It's illegal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so like unless you're a restaurant that actually grinds your own beef for a burger, they will not cook you a medium rare hamburger.
I don't think I ever got a burger.
They flat out tell you they cannot do it. They'll, like, medium or to well is what they can do.
Yeah, I don't think I ever got a burger in Canada. When I was in London, I made the mistake of getting when I was in Edinburgh, Scotland, I made the mistake. I was drunk and I was like, just give me a burger. I don't even know what it was. It was inedible. It was burnt and it was on a bun. Like,
yeah, you got to go to a nice French restaurant that makes steak tartare and they say, okay, now and cook it.
Just cook it a little bit. Okay, so like we're all over the place right now with what we're doing. I'm trying to keep us on track a bit, but what are you drinking there?
I went full Snoop Dogg. You inspired me to get open up my bottle of Roku.
Nice.
And I just gin and juice, 3-4 ounces of gin and a little couple splashes of Bojay.
Holy shit. Wow. That's a tough one. All right. So you're eating around New York. You're on the forums. You decide to start eGullet, right?
That's right.
You get to the end of your time at eGullet.
Yes.
You start your own blog.
Yes.
But you had a blog before eGullet. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, eGullet in and of itself was kind of like the blog world, right? Like I think food blogs basically kind of started to come into their being around 2003, 2004. There were a few people that kind of started blogging as sort of like a food blogging was like really started with eGullet, and then people went off and did their own things. So I guess you could say I kind of am the father of food blogging in a way, because we had people doing kind of serialized posts about cooking and things over time. So you could say that was effectively food blogging. I mean, it wasn't using WordPress or anything at the time. I mean, those things didn't exist. I didn't start mine until like 2007 or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So I started off the broiler in 2005 or 2006 when WordPress like first came out. I was like, wow, this is cool software. So like, I'm like, it was easy to set up and like So I started writing about, food in New Jersey. And I also got a couple of writing gigs. I was writing for the New York Times' New Jersey food section, some of their smaller bits, kind of looking for like the ethnic food places and little nooks and crannies, hard to find food places, not the large format, restaurant reviews, but sort of like what they called it, a quick bite back then.
Sure.
Is what they were, 300-400 border type of pieces.
Like hey, if you're in this section of New Jersey, there's this place. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I got to the point where, everywhere I was traveling, because I was working for around 2007, I went to work for IBM. And actually in 2005, I worked for a company back in Southern Pennsylvania called Unisys, which is one of the companies that invented computers, believe it or not. That's the company that had the computer that Walter Cronkite predicted, Kennedy winning the election back in like 1963 or 64 or something like that. 63 or 62, a 1960 election, excuse me. So I worked for them for a while. And then I went to work for IBM, and IBM was a job where they flew me all over the country. So I got to like go to Texas and to have real barbecue in Austin. I used they flew me out to Raleigh where I had all kinds of pork barbecue, all kinds of pork barbecue there. Spent a lot of time in Boston, spent a lot of time in Chicago, all the big cities.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned, there was something out there besides New York. That there was a world out there. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I as a kid, you grow up in New York, you basically think you are the center of the universe.
Sure.
It's like in Star Wars, like you live on that planet Coruscant where all the buildings are like 1,000 feet high,
uh-huh.
5,000 feet high as mountains, and they're covering the entire planet. Well, basically growing up, but like everybody's like sort of like, well, we live in Coruscant, the center of the galaxy. Well, we live in New York, the center of the universe, right?
They're
Nothing
always like that.
New York. Our pizza's the best.
Yeah.
Our delicatessens are the best.
Tell me about it.
Is the best. I know Chinese food because I'm from New York.
You just described every Baltimore food discussion for the last 25 years. There's always people going, where can I get real New York pizza?
Better than ours.
Yeah. Where can I get real Chinese food? Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty much what it is.
So that was kind of eye-opening for me to be able to see what all the other cities. I mean, of course, I went to school in DC, so I knew there was other things out there, right? But when you travel for work, the only kind of fun that you can have while you're traveling for work is going out to eat after work. And fortunately, I had an Amex card paid for by IBM. So they would cover my entertainment expenses if I'm bringing a client out or we're trying to close, a $10 million computer deal, So
it is a great way to see a city though, too. Like I always plan trips around my lunches and dinners and sometimes breakfasts. I'm not a big breakfast person, but if we're getting out early, it's a good way to just get out, go to a place, and then have a jumping off point, right? And make sure you try to space it out and see different parts of a city. It's a wonderful way to learn about a culture.
Restaurants are other than art galleries and concert halls and outdoor venues and sports. Food is the cultural heart of any city that you go to. You will learn more about any culture by eating their food.
Yeah,
You'll
I
learn
would say more than the other
culture.
ones that you just talked about. You can learn about art and music, but food is where you learn the people. Right?
Yes, you do.
Like that's always the best part of a city too.
Yeah. Food, art and music you can appreciate remotely.
Sure.
But
these days
you have to be in the city itself to eat their food, to understand their food culture, pretty much. So I mean, and that's just like one of my favorite food cities in the world is New Orleans.
Okay.
Which is a city I've been to probably over a dozen times in the last, 20 years. And, I got to really see what it was like, the food culture was like pre-Katrina. And I photo documented a lot of what I ate. And eventually The city ended up using my food photography to promote the city after Katrina when they rebuilt it. Also, because I came back after they rebuilt it, so we did kind of these sort of before and after restaurant pictures, which were kind of amazing to look at. Because some of these restaurants got like 10, 12 feet of water.
Yeah.
And had to be completely demolished and rebuilt. But there are certain things that you cannot like I said, you can't replicate. You cannot identically replicate a po' boy outside of New Orleans, because that Leidenheimer bread is only good for 24 hours. And it has a certain characteristic of being baked there. You can try to replicate French bread elsewhere, but it's not going to be the same. And their fresh seafood. I mean, it comes right from the docks to restaurants the same day. Their oysters are shucked at the restaurant alive.
Right.
So I mean, their shrimp is harvested that day, and the crawdads are harvested, that day, So yeah, I mean, you can ship seafood out of state, certain things, and you can try your best. You can do a really good damn job, but
freshness is definitely a thing that can't be faked.
There's something about the way New Orleans restaurants do service that servers are still respected as professionals.
Yes, they're not like just mongrels that
it's like it's like Paris. A server that is your job.
That is a profession. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And you treat them with respect because they know better than you. Yeah. Yeah. No, when I remember going to Paris and being like, oh yeah, this is exactly how these people should be treated. Like,
yeah.
They're like, no, I don't need a fucking tip. Like a lot of servers would be like, don't fucking tip me. I get paid.
Yeah.
Like,
but
okay,
I mean, in
dude.
New Orleans, you can go to a restaurant, a nice restaurant, or even the local, gumbo joint or wherever, and you can have a conversation with it. Tell me what's good.
Right.
Man, I'll hook you up. Tell me what's good. Tell me what you want me to eat today, and I want the fresh stuff, and I want whatever the hell just came out of the kitchen the special day. Tell me give me the scoop, and I'm ordering it. Right.
Always ask your servers and your bartenders, what's good on your menu? What do you like? Or
no matter where you are, and then what kind of restaurant.
The most important question is, where do I go to next? Where do I eat next? What's your favorite place? Where should I go? Like,
where do you like to eat?
I don't like eating at bullshit fucking places. Give me what you dig. And they're like, okay. Like I remember my wife and I were up in shit. My brain's going bad. Up in Canada, and that one place in Canada. But we were
in Montreal, Toronto.
In Montreal. We were in Montreal.
Okay, there you go.
We were in Montreal, and we went to this bar and we're like, okay, we have these places on a list, but what do you think? And they're like, oh, dude, boom, boom, boom. And a lot of it was bagel centric. You know what I mean? Because their bagels are fucking amazing up there.
Montreal's bagels are unique.
Yeah. They're weirdly flat.
They're small.
Yeah.
They're small. They're like half the size of a bagel you'll find in any American city.
Like in thickness wise.
They're sweeter.
Yes.
The dough is formulated differently. The boil is done differently. They don't have a million freaking toppings.
But they're good.
Yeah, but they're the size of they're not, I mean, like, they're maybe 3-4 inches across. And
right.
they're not giant, distended giant things to make sandwiches with.
Yeah. Which
freedom with cheese. That's it.
Yeah.
And lox.
They're so good.
Yeah, they're really good.
But yeah, you just go and you're like, all right, you give me the skinny, right? And then they'll tell you, right? And that's the beauty of eating. Like I love that shit, man. Like that's why you and I fucking love this shit, right? Like there's something about just living and being in the moment and talking to other food people.
But that's the addiction. It's not just the food. It's being part of the experience and being sucked into the experience, right? This is our entertainment. Like I try to explain, like when I go out for dinner and I go to a sushi joint, I always sit at a sushi bar. I never sit at a table in a sushi restaurant. I want to sit in front of that chef. I want to interrogate him and ask him what the hell is good. What does he want to serve me that day? and I'll watch him do his thing, and I'll tell him, this is my entertainment. You are my entertainment. This is what I'm doing tonight. I'm having your sushi, I'm drinking your sake, and this is what I'm doing. I'm
and then they get into it because they know that they got somebody who wants to fucking like that wants the shit, right? And it's not being a dick. You're not being a dick. You're being respectful and being like, dude, I appreciate your talent. Fucking do your shit. And then they do it. They're not just like, all right, there's a fucking guy over there. He doesn't give a fuck. I'm just going to make a roll. Like, then they're like, oh shit, I got to fucking show my talent.
Yeah. What did you get in fresh today? What is, I mean, it's weird. Like, I ask questions no matter where I go. If I see something on a menu that catches my eye, and I will ask the server or I'll ask the manager, it doesn't specify like where this particular fish comes from, or where do you source this meat or whatever. Can you tell me what it is? They usually appreciate it because you're asking questions,
right?
And they may not be, and they may be like, oh, maybe we need to put that on the menu because we didn't specify it or something. Like, I don't take things at face value. I'm inquisitive. I like to look at, I analyze something, and I'll look at a menu item like, oh, okay, why is this way? Why is this like, it's like you go to a restaurant, you sit down at the table, they give you a menu. So the first thing I analyze, I look at the appetizer section, like, okay, on these appetizers, how much of many of these did they make in-house versus they're buying a product?
Exactly.
And then I'll look at the entrees. Okay, you got chicken shit, you got beef shit, you got seafood shit. You have pastas in various types. And I'll interrogate the server.
What's the thing that the chef snuck in?
I'm like, all right, you tell me, what do you make in house, and where are you sourcing X, Y, and Z from? And did you make this? Okay, Thai restaurant. Did you make this dumpling? No, we bought it as a product. It's frozen. Fuck no. Okay, but this pork dish. Did you make it? Yeah, we made it from scratch. Okay, well, I'm ordering one of those. Right. So these are the questions you have to ask. You need to be inquisitive when you go to a restaurant. It's not being a pain in the ass. This is the sign that you know what you want. You want the best of what they have.
And if they get squirrely, just leave.
Exactly. Work the fuck out.
Because if they get squirrely, then you should be worried.
Yes. They should tell you, well, we buy these products. Yeah, we buy our French fries. Fuck it. But like, okay, but these things here, you say you make them. Yeah, we make them from scratch in the kitchen because it makes sense for us to make these things versus buy. Well, then fuck it. I'm not going to eat what you buy.
Right. But the stuff you make in house.
Although there are some frozen French fries out there that if you cook them, completely well done, they're pretty fucking good.
They're a lot better than a lot
products out there than others.
They're a lot better than the ones you get at a lot of restaurants that are like, oh yeah, we cook them in house. It's like, oh, you don't know how to make fries.
Yeah, I like my fries cremated. I like them super crispy.
Me too. We have a family fry off when we all get something with fries, and we all sit around, me, my wife, and my 12-year-old son, and we'll crunch the French fry, and if anybody can hear it, just it's like, all right, you got a good one, but the loudest one wins. It's just a fun thing we do. You just dump like 8 ounces of fucking more gin into your.
You know why I'm being an alcoholic right now, right?
Yeah, I do. All
right, but we're having fun.
Okay, so before we get into the weird part of blogging or food culture, I do want to ask you about the time you were on No Reservations with Bourdain. Because I find that really interesting. Like, because he talked to you like, it's kind of my follow-up question.
It's the on-camera Bourdain, and then there's the off-camera Bourdain, but he's very similar off-camera than he is on camera.
But what I'm about to ask you is kind of what he asked you all that time ago. Like, how have you seen it change? But like, what was the premise of you being on the show?
All right. So Tony wanted to do a show about bloggers and the internet, and especially his reaction to why people would trash the shit out of restaurants on Yelp and stuff.
And what year was this, by the way?
2007.
Which is fucking insane. Okay.
An eternity ago.
Yeah. That far ago.
But not that, but honestly, people have not changed that much. They've actually gotten fucking worse. Right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
Like I see people 1-star people, restaurants on Yelp for no fucking reason at all.
But that's from 2001 when you started eGullet, when everything was fucking cool, till 2007 when it already had gotten toxic. But it still hadn't got as badly weirdo fucking insane toxic as
nobody could foresee what would happen to the internet in the Twitter age, in the Facebook age, let alone the Elon Musk Twitter age, and post Trump and post COVID.
Right.
Like if somebody took like some sound bites and like did like a demo reel of the 2016 to 2024 movie, you would not fucking believe what you were looking at.
Yeah, no, it's bizarro.
We're living in the weird alternate universe that shouldn't exist right now.
One thing I love, and I hate Facebook for most of the things, but I've deleted so many people off of Facebook.
Oh my God, yeah.
Cut it so far down. Our Facebook group is fun. Like it's not.
That's why I hang
toxic.
out. Well, also, I mean, so I think I found your group because of Alison Robicelli.
Yes.
Who is a brilliant fucking writer and the nicest fucking person in existence. But she's also a brilliant fucking pastry chef. Also,
yeah, she's great. Her and Matt. Yeah.
And she's from your hometown, is she not? She's from Baltimore originally?
No. They're both from New York.
I don't know how she got involved with your group. I guess because you're just cool people. But,
well, they moved from New York. They had their place in New York and then moved to Baltimore. And
that's why. So she
place
became an in vitro Baltimorean.
Yeah.
So, but she's a brilliant pastry chef and baker, and I mean she's got other interests too that are really interesting.
You mean the sex food books?
The erotica, the food erotica stuff.
Food. By the way, if you want to really get weird, look up Alison Robicelli food porn, but that's like it literally is food porn.
Yeah, but she
writes about food fucking each other.
She's an amazing magazine food writer. I mean, she does what I could never hope to do. Because her voice is amazing.
Yeah.
But so I must have found you through them. And I'm like, wow, what a cool group of people. So I'm just like hanging out. Like, could you guys talk about all kinds of stuff? You know.
But like I've always said I've only had to kick 2 people out of the site in 7 years. Like, or the Facebook group, because everybody's cool. Like, and I'm okay not having 90,000 people in my group, right? Like, because I don't have to mod it like a maniac. There's 4,000 people or whatever it is now, and everybody's just chill and they just laugh and joke and actually ask.
Yeah, I don't even remember seeing a nasty discussion in your group.
It never happens because nobody's a dick. That's the thing, and if somebody is, I purposely send them a message like, hey man, what's happening? You okay? And then, sometimes it's like, oh, I just had a bad day, or like, I don't know what I just said it wrong and I'm sorry, I'll apologize. And I'm like, you don't need to apologize to me. You apologize to the other person, just direct message them. It's fine. And I'll tell the person, hey, this person's going to direct message you, by the way, don't worry about it. Like, and that's only happened like 3 times.
I don't know how people forgot to be nice to people.
Yeah, it's really fucking weird. And I don't know why. I don't know how. And okay, this goes back to the question I was about to ask you about before we talked about the Bourdain thing, how it changed. Why and I'm not asking you like what do you think, you as a professional, like just as a general thing, why have people become so just mean? It's really bizarre.
Well, obviously we had, as of 2016, we became us versus them. The media on each side of the spectrum othered each other.
Yeah.
And it became very much like a wartime type of thing. I also think that the social media platforms themselves are engineered to create conflict.
And they like it because that's more engagement, right? Like
more engagement, more page views.
Right. Yeah. It's really bizarre. Like, but ultimately, as we've seen with Twitter, not calling it the other name, that's ultimately what has killed it, is that weird mix of just unrelented venom. I mean, it doesn't hurt that a maniac bought it and has run it into the ground. And man, after yesterday, woo!
So I'll tell you what the problem is, and you're not going to like my answer. So we put a supercomputer in the hands of every single human being.
Yeah, exactly.
With access to voice-activated voice recognition, instantaneous access to information with a certain confirmation bias. When I got involved with computers, it was in the 1980s. We had Apple IIs, we had bulletin board systems. So to learn how to use a computer, you had to actually know what the hell you were doing.
Right.
You had to be intelligent. You had to know how to put the thing together. You had to deal with all its bullshit intricacies. I don't want to get all the technical crap, but to put a computer together, to put a piece of computer.
You had to know computer stuff.
You had to know computer stuff. You weren't dumb. We gave this to billions of dumb people. That is why we are in the shape that we are now.
He's holding up his phone, by the way. None of you can see that. It's really interesting you say that, because I had this conversation. So
I met my wife because she said to me, while I was doing a demonstration at a software store, there used to be stores where you could buy software. I was doing a demonstration on software, and she said, "Oh, I just tweaked my WinINI file today." And when she said that to me, I'm like, "Yeah, I got to marry this woman."
Fucking nerds. That's awesome.
It's 29 years later.
But like, okay, I had this conversation today. I'm by day a graphic designer, art director, right?
Yeah.
I said to somebody today, the one thing that's really weird.
You went to culinary school?
Yeah, because I was a food writer. I was stupid. I've been at the same job for like.
And now you do Photoshop shit?
No, I've been doing the same job for 23 years.
Because it pays more. But that's a crazy fucking thing. Like, I have been in the computer industry as a technologist, but my passion has been food writing. I've never been able to make a living doing it.
Same with me. Yeah. No, same exact thing. Like I started at my job in 2001.
Right.
Around 2007, because I had a food blog, a local food writer who wrote for the Baltimore Sun was like, "Hey, do you want to write for us?" Because I was writing for like little local places, right? And I was like, "Yeah, great." And then they let me go because they didn't like the way I was slagging places. They didn't tell me that I should just be like, "Hey, this is a good place," instead of, "No, this place sucks."
Yeah.
Which, whatever. And then I went and wrote for a bunch of other places. I've written for the Guardian and the Baltimore Sun and the fucking Baltimore.
Yeah,
City
you've written a lot of stuff.
Yeah. But like, when I started really writing about food a lot, I was like, I think I need to go to culinary school, which was the dumbest thing ever. Because I had worked at restaurants, but you get that thing where it's like, I need to know from the other side, even though I had worked in restaurants as a dishwasher, as a line cook, whatever. I felt like I needed to know how to create a recipe because that was part of my job. Like one of the things that I would do was they would go, okay, you now have an article every week where you go to the farmer's market, pick a thing, write about it, and give me 3 recipes.
And most home cooks do not cook from recipes. I don't cook from a freaking recipe. Sometimes I have to ask my wife, can you generate a recipe basically based on what we did? Because I don't freaking remember.
See, my wife,
because someone's going to say recipe.
My wife has to cook from a recipe. She cannot. I drive her crazy when she goes, okay, what am I making? And I'll say, oh, you're making meatballs. Okay. So what do I do? I'm like, just take some meat and just garlic and onions and, some
That's
herbs.
Exactly how we made meatloaf last week. I had ground beef, I had ground pork. I'm like, okay, I'm going to chop up some vegetables into fine brunoise, and I'm going to mix it up with some eggs and some binder and some cheese.
But she can't. She doesn't have the brain for.
She can't conceptualize that.
Well, she doesn't have the brain for proportions. She needs a recipe. She needs
okay.
You know what I mean?
That's fine.
Like, and I get that. Whereas I'm the person that goes, okay, I'm going to make this. I'll look at 35 recipes and take a little bit of each. You know what I mean? Like, but
what do I have in house versus what I need to go buy?
But I'm not even putting proportions. I'm just writing like, oh, fennel.
It needs to have this. It needs to have this herbs. It needs to have spices. It needs. Yeah.
Because like we were talking earlier, I have a palette in my brain where I'm like, oh, that would taste good with that. And then if I mix it with that, I've
never made the same thing exactly the same twice. I'm not kind of dude. Like
there's a couple things that way. There's a couple things I have written down that when I make it for my wife because she likes it that way. But any other time we don't make anything. Like, okay, one thing that drives my wife crazy is on the New York Times, their food website, which is amazing. Yeah. They don't have they have a section of saved, but they don't have a section of loved where you cook a thing. And if you really like that thing that you have saved, because you always save it for later, like you're looking through, you're like, oh, that looks good, I'll save it. And then you cook it. And if you really like it, you should save it. And then it goes to another.
That shit if you liked it the first time. It's
really interesting.
I me and my wife, we don't duplicate recipes like if it's like, okay, we're gonna cook Chinese food tonight. I went and bought some beef or some pork or something, and we're gonna stir fry it. And like, okay, what vegetables do we got? Okay, I kind of know what sauce we're gonna do. I'm gonna do a brown, so I'm gonna have some. There are certain technique. I'm a technique oriented cook. I am not a recipe oriented cook.
Right.
If you run a restaurant, no, you need to be a tech
because you need to replicate. Sure.
Unless you're farm to table and you're changing your shit every week,
Yeah, because Bob the cow that lives down the street, you need to make sure he's good every time you make him.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, when I cook, not the weird thing, and you'll understand this, is we just don't cook the same thing a lot. Like we're just constantly doing different stuff. Like we'll come back to a thing every 2 months. You know what I mean? Like when I say we eat tacos a lot, we do eat tacos a lot. But it's
so do I.
The fillings,
I buy
the filling's always different.
But even still, even if I'm buying fresh tortillas and I'm grilling them on the cast iron, I might use a different cheese. I might use a different meat. I might use different spice blend or I might
filling's different. Salsa's different. There's a lot of variation.
Yeah, but that's the way they do it.
Right, exactly. Right. It's not always fucking El Paso tacos. Yeah. That's what
Abuela's freaking doing on the comal, man. She's making the fresh tortillas and then she's throwing her stuff on top of it. And that's what a taco is, man. Like,
yeah, totally. I forgot what we were talking about. Oh, we were talking about where it's gotten to. And, we both agree that kind of sucks right now. I don't see it getting any better, but the overall, like when I see, like there are like 3 places I go to for recipes at this point. It's the New York Times, it's Epicurious,
Yeah.
and it's well, I guess Serious Eats, but mainly Food Lab.
Serious Eats, which is where you got Kenji and all that kind of stuff. Like,
Right.
you know, yeah.
Food Lab, right, which is Kenji. And that's my radius.
Okay,
Because,
well, that's a good radius.
oh, I know, but like when I do look up recipes, you know, you look at all these fucking food bloggers and it's all rich ass white women.
Yeah.
And
So like, but it depends. So like if I'm looking at Indian or Indonesian or Malaysian, I'm looking for like people from foreign countries to get recipes.
Oh, without a doubt. Same thing.
And it's going to be metric and shit. So I'll deal with that.
Yeah, where I have to translate the website. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Exactly. Yeah. But like food blogging now isn't like it was, you know, where like, okay, you were mentioning.
I do feel like we were in a more advanced stage 15, 20 years ago than we are now. And in terms of
where you had fun stuff like you were saying, like with Julie and Julia.
Yeah.
And, you know, stuff where, you know,
people did crazy shit like that back then.
I'm cooking the whole Eric Ripert cookbook, you know, like, which all that did was one, get that page seen, but also it was basically a giant like ad for the fucking uncookable cookbook that, you know, he put out, you know, like.
And my wife looks at a lot of YouTube stuff right now, like people that do these various different types of cooking.
I watch tons of them. Yeah.
I don't have the time to look at that shit.
I watch Kenji's stuff, and that's fun because
he's cool. He's cool.
It's, you know, it's usually under 15 minutes. My wife can't watch it because it makes her sick because he's always got that head cam.
Yeah, like, you know.
But
what's his name? There's this gay guy that like is just starting to learn how to cook, and he's becoming, and he's like a billion followers or something.
I've seen that. I can't stand stuff like that. I can't stand people that push a like. I don't know. A purposeful stupidity, you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh my God, I'm so bad at it. It's like, dude, we get it. Like, I've seen it.
Or on Facebook, you get these crazy like food porn, sort of like performance art.
Oh, where it's
club,
like
whatever the hell you call it. like
it's like watching Dali, where they're like, all right, we're gonna make mashed potatoes, but we're gonna make it from a bag of potato chips, and it's like, no, you're not. Like,
I'm gonna make a giant burrito made out of like cheese melted and fried onto a giant, you know, and then like, you know, roll it until, and I got this 12-foot long fucking giant burrito with like 19 different layers. Like, why are you doing this?
And a lot of the stuff is just for clicks, which each click gets them money, right? You know, because they have
the Italian dude with his wife that's the American. He's like, I don't like this Italian kind of food.
Oh, yeah. And she's like, hey, honey, I made you spaghetti with ketchup. And he's like, what the fuck? Yeah. That there's all that shit. It's
the reaction videos and stuff. Like, no, just show me how to make something fucking good.
Okay,
right?
So like,
what happened to that?
So if you go on like
instructional, like really, you know, like what's your name? Like I remember even with food, so like even Food Network 20 years ago was totally different than it is now. Like you used to have like people that were really excellent educational chefs, you know, from like Food and Wine magazine and whatnot. And they would go step by step through a recipe and show you measurement or somebody like would show you how to make a perfect French omelet,
right?
Or basic things that you need to know that you can branch off from and do other things like, you know, mother sauces and you know the fundamentals. We've lost the fundamentals, and then because once you have the fundamentals, you can create. But if you don't,
they've gotten away with that because they're depending on people not knowing the fundamentals. the fundamentals. You know what I mean? Like, that's the crazy part. That's why you don't see a lot of, unless it's mac and cheese, which is always a big clicker, right? Because mac and cheese is mac and cheese, and people are always going to eat mac and cheese. They won't know that they're making a cheese sauce.
You need a cheese sauce, and you need a roux. You need a bechamel.
Yeah.
These are the fundamentals to any mac and cheese.
But if you start making it,
or a pasticcio, or 1,000 other dishes, you need to know these things.
But like, okay, I will say, PBS is where I go a lot for cooking shows these days. Like Patty's Mexican Kitchen is amazing. Have you ever watched that?
You got to go back to the 1990s or 1980s for the really good shit. I mean, like,
but have you watched Patty's Mexican Kitchen?
I had not, but I will.
It's Patty Yinich. It looks like Jinich, but it's Yinich, and she lives in DC. She's amazing. Her show is now it used to be just like a show where she cooked from her house, but now she travels to Mexico.
Oh, that's cool.
It's sort of like half a Bourdain thing, where she goes and eats around the town and it's very specific, this little town in Mexico, and then it goes back to her home in DC, and she cooks a home version of it. It's fucking great, dude. And she's done beer dinners and shit now, and like
I had no idea. I was watching the Mexican grandmother thing for a while that her daughter was taping her and stuff. I think just some old grandmother.
You should.
That thing was cool.
Yeah, you should watch Patty's Mexican Table. It's so good.
Patty's Mexican Table. I will look for that.
The production's good. Christ, at this point, they've got 10 seasons, 12 seasons.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's gotten so good now. But like, Sarah Moulton is still on PBS.
Well, Sarah Moulton, that's who I was trying to bring out of my head. I've had like 5 ounces of freaking gin. Sarah Moulton, as an instructional chef, she was an amazing chef on Food Network. Amazing chef. And
her show now is very close to
I knew her very well. I haven't spoken to her in a while, but I know her very well. Yeah.
Her new show is very close to old school Julia Child stuff, where she goes to different, cities or restaurants and basically stands next to the person.
Old school Julia Child. I love old school Jacques Pepin. I love that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But she's, Sarah Moulton stands next to the person who is making the food and describes it. Yeah, it's great. I don't think food TV is dead. I think a lot of it's just in different places. But I think that it's moved more towards sort of the entertainment aspect. Like, all these cake fucking shows. Is it cake or is it fucking real? Oh yeah.
All right.
I mean, to try to learn to cook off of TikTok is ridiculous. I mean,
Chopped was cool when it first started, but then that entire concept, everything sort of, copied that and it got stupid. Right. Right.
But like, there's a thing I watch. Oh, have you ever watched Chef Steps on?
No.
So the Anova guys.
I'm remarkable. I know the Anova guys really well, but I'm remarkably.
So their website is Chef Steps.
Their
app is Chef Steps.
Yeah, right.
But they do really good. They do really good YouTube videos.
Yeah. Yeah. When I did the CNN sous vide roundup, I had to look at that stuff.
Yeah. Nova's great. They just did a vegan foie gras.
What the fuck? Was it made out of mushrooms or something? Or like
they made it out of cashews.
Oh, that's wild.
And I was, you're watching it and you're going, because you got the brain taste, right? You got taste buds in your brain. And you're looking at it and going, holy shit, I think they might be right. But then they had a follow-up video where they went to a chef thing and set up, and all these chefs were coming over and they're like, hey, taste our new, recreated foie gras. And everybody's like, oh,
yeah, some of that,
and they're giving it to them, right? And all these chefs are like, holy shit, bro, this is fucking amazing. And they're like, yeah, it's not real foie gras.
Islamic cuisine is really wild, especially when you get into the vegan space. Have you ever read Amanda Cohen's Dirt Candy Cookbook from New York City? That's some amazing crap. I mean, she made a mushroom, a portobello mousse one time when with the original incarnation of a restaurant. She's gone to like, I know that her original space was very, very small in Greenwich Village, but then she got a bigger space. But her original space where she formulated her original cookbook, which is a very whimsical cookbook. It's very cool. If you look at the Dirt Candy Cookbook by Amanda Cohen, she has some amazing. Well, because I wouldn't have called her a vegan restaurant. She is a vegetable restaurant, and she is not a vegan traditionally. I mean, she is not a vegan. I mean, I don't know what her dietary habits are now, but when she started that restaurant, she was a culinary school, classically trained chef that decided to open a restaurant that served vegetables.
Right.
In a culinary fashion. So she didn't try to make meat analogs. She made nice vegetable dishes.
Which is refreshing.
Yeah. I hate when you try to replicate meat.
Yeah.
No, you make the vegetables shine in the best way possible.
Because vegetables are fucking delicious.
Whatever preparation method makes them taste the fucking best.
Right.
So I'm not I'm a carnivore. I like to eat proteins. But yeah, if you serve me a well-conceived and thought out vegetables dish, hell yes, I'm gonna eat it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we do Meatless Monday in this house. My wife is recycling and sustainability coordinator for Johns Hopkins.
Okay.
And
how many garbage cans do you have in your house?
87.
Oh my! Oh, good luck with that shit.
No,
man.
we got a trash can, we got a recycling can, we got another trash can, and then we have a compost can. Yeah, the compost can's great.
Do you remember where to put everything?
No, I've been with my wife for 20 years. Still don't know where. Well, the recycling gets really squirrely because it changes. And that's the problem. But now I've gotten a better idea in the last year. I know where the compost goes. The compost is easy, and I love composting because I hate wasting food, right? Like,
no, I hate food waste. It drives me crazy.
Right. So knowing that it gets composted, and they don't compost here in Baltimore, but they have compost at Hopkins. So she just takes our bags, 2 times a week to work and puts it in the compost pile, and it's composted. And I love that. I love composting. But yeah, a lot of trash cans. But just I don't know. I lost my train of thought again. Fuck. What were we talking about?
I don't know.
Did your gin just kick in? What's going on? You all right?
Yeah, man. I'm I went to 4 freaking ounces of this shit, man. I'm but no, I am able to construct logical arguments and streams of consciousness. So if you inquire about a specific topic, I might be able to answer it.
I've only got 2 more things left. Okay. Is there anything that you want to promote before we get out of here?
So if you live in South Florida, I do have a discussion forum, Foodies Who Review South Florida, and I write, food articles for Tap into Coral Springs, which is our local, West Broward news website where I write about local restaurants. But I know I do, tweet about stuff at J Perlow, and I'm also on Blue Sky and Mastodon. I'm kind of going through a mourning period with the whole, Twitter Elon thing.
Are you on Blue Sky?
Yeah, I'm on Blue Sky.
Is that what you just said? You just said, okay, I'll have to.
I'm on Blue Sky.
Okay.
The whole transition from Twitter to Blue Sky and Mastodon is kind of weird because they're not exactly the same. Because
But I
Blue
love
Sky
it.
is like a lot of sex crazed freaking people that are also
Oh my God, so many furries.
completely crazy. And like in Mastodon, they're like, you didn't like content warn, or you didn't put in text alternative for people that are blind.
All the hall monitors.
So like, they're all like they're all totally weird in their own unique ways. So like, yeah, I'm still going through that mourning process because I keep flipping back and forth between locked and unlocked Twitter profile because I have articles that I write about for, that I want to let people know about. But like, but like, for example, the venue that I primarily write for in the tech community, ZDNet, stopped tweeting on November 17th because they don't want to do it anymore.
I killed my Twitter profiles 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
I've been turning them off and on. I'm like,
no, I killed mine. I was
here.
like, fuck it. I'm just going to make a break. I can't deal with this place. It's terrible. And Blue Sky's weird, but I like it. Neil Gaiman's there a lot. So
there's a lot of weird, cool people on Blue Sky. I mean, I do have to say, because we all have like 100 times less followers on Blue Sky, but you get to interact with the same super cool people that had like a million followers on Twitter.
And right now they only have
1,000,
7,000.
Like the biggest people on Blue Sky have like maybe 40,000 followers.
Yeah,
total,
exactly.
But they were like 10 million followers on Twitter, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Everything has been scaled down.
Yeah, because everything's getting fragmented again. It's weird. And it'll coalesce somewhere else, maybe, or everybody will just be like,
did not improve shit. Like I went to streaming. I got rid of my cable. Now I got 19 freaking streaming services.
Yeah, you're still paying the same thing.
Where half my fucking shows reside. Like, are they on Hulu? Are they on Netflix? Are they on fucking Apple TV? Are they on, Paramount Plus? Are they on Disney? Like, where the fuck is all my shit that I want to watch? I'm getting too old for this shit. I'm 54 years old. I just want to watch the shit that I want to watch, but it's like I have to be a network administrator, an IT administrator on my fucking little tiny box sitting attached to the TV.
By the way, on Netflix, have you watched the Taco Chronicles?
No, I have not.
Write it down.
I've been watching all the Japanese like samurai shit right now.
Watch the Taco Chronicles. It's all in Spanish.
Taco Chronicles?
It will fucking make your eyes bleed with pain because you want to eat these tacos. It's the best food. Like everything's in slow motion. Like all the sauces, it's filmed so well. And a lot of the episodes, the narrator is the actual taco.
It's like, should I do Pornhub, or should I do Taco Chronicles?
It's Taco Chronicles. Trust me. Chronicles. Yeah. That's what it should be. All right. All right. At the end of every episode, for people that we interview, there's a question that I ask of everyone. You're going to die tomorrow. Be it death row, you've been a bad boy. You're going to fall off a cliff because you're a ding dong. Maybe birds are going to peck your eyes out and somehow get into your brain. I don't know. You're going to die tomorrow. You can have one last meal. It can be anything that you want. It can be as big and it can be as small. It can include food, dessert, drinks, or none of the above. What will you eat as a last meal, Jason Perlow?
Wow, that is a very difficult question.
Because it's so open-ended.
So I think I would have to do omakase at the nicest restaurant in like New York City or something.
Okay. So for those who don't know what omakase is, it's when you go to a sushi restaurant and you go up and you sit at the counter and you say omakase to the sushi chef, and it basically means, give me what you got. What do you got? Fucking give me your best shit. So what then?
Yeah, I mean omakase of the top line bluefin and all the rarest fish possible, the best possible sake that they have in house. I mean we're talking like a $2,000 meal probably. It would have to be like.
So you're a big sushi guy, huh?
I love sushi.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I do too, but sushi is like
omakase could also involve A5 steak,
sure. Yeah. Shrimp.
I mean, there's a broad amount of stuff that you could possibly receive in a top level omakase place.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. It's not just, raw fish on rice. Yeah, sure. Or just raw fish. And so sake and.
Yeah. I mean, there are places that exist in previous times that no longer exist that I would love to still attend. If I could jump in a time machine, there's places I'd love to go to, but the world has changed culinarily since the last 10, 15 years. I mean, even during the pandemic, we've lost so many good places that I would love to have gone to if I knew I was dying tomorrow, So, Carnegie Deli, no longer exists. I mean, there's lots of places that have left us that I would love to have gone to in his last meal. But, so for me to pinpoint which restaurant I were to go to for my last meal, difficult to say. I don't think I would go for pizza. I don't think I would go for burgers. I don't think I would go for Jewish deli. I don't think I would go for Italian food. For me, top level sushi place.
Where you just fucking keep going until you just are done.
Yeah, I mean, basically.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Maybe the last thing should be, blowfish. Fugu.
Oh shit!
Very last should just finish me off.
Yeah. Yeah, you just say, "Hey, look, just don't clean it right."
Yeah, fuck it. That'll be my last dish. Yum.
God. Oh, my tongue's numb all of a sudden.
Right?
Yeah, that's great. I love that. You are seppukuing yourself.
Right, seppuku by blowfish. by fugu.
That's great. I love it. Well, Jason, thank you so much for fucking coming on the show. I really appreciate it, man.
I know we were all over the map today, but maybe it's not the most coherent podcast you've ever had.
It happens. I kind of feel that's how both of our minds are right now.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if you ever want to have me back, I'll be happy to come back.
I have you on as many times as you want to be on, dude. I really, really appreciate it. So
I very much enjoyed it. I had a crummy day today, and this was very good for me.
I'm really happy. I'm like I said before we started. Let's make the funny.
Right.
We did it. So
and if you're ever down here in South Florida, I mean, I got a nice setup. I've got jacuzzis. I got a really big bar. I didn't show you what my bar looks like, but
I've seen pictures. It's fucking insane.
Yeah, my mind thinks I'm a lunatic.
Every time you show videos of like you cooking outside, I'm like, Jesus Christ, he's got that like, oh my God, it's so crazy. But no, same thing, dude. When you're in Baltimore,
people like to buy Ferraris and cars. I like to do pizza ovens and barbecues.
Yeah, no, that would be me. Absolutely. But yeah, dude, when you're in Baltimore, same thing. So thank you. And thank you to everyone listening to the Rude Cooking School podcast. As you hear, we have a lot of fun. And I know that you've probably had a lot of fun listening to this podcast because we were fucking being really silly. But I don't spend money for advertising. So word of mouth is how it gets around. And I would appreciate if you just told somebody. You can go on to iTunes, which weirdly still holds a lot of sway, and review the show, or Spotify or Amazon or wherever you get your podcasts, and just rate it. And that's cool. And I would really love you to do that, but just tell somebody else. and just turn them on to the show. Besides that, I will see you next week. And for the Rude Cooking School podcast, my name's John Hauser III.
And I'm Jason Perlow.
Don't yuck my yum. I love you. Peace, everybody. The one thing I wanted to ask, were you actually on a fucking episode of like No Reservations?
Oh yes.
Like
so I knew Tony
for No Reservations.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I knew Tony starting in around 1998, 99 back in the early yonder days of the World Wide Web.
Right.
Chowhound was kind of like the major forum at the time, and
we'll get you can leave that. You stop that question. We'll get into that. Because we'll get into the eGullet thing. That's how we'll.
But I knew Tony going back 1998, 1999. I know him from his first wife. He had gone through his third or fourth or something by the time he went.
His fourth wife?
Well, he had his first wife Nancy, and then he had, I think it was Olivia, and then was the second girlfriend. The third one was.
Maybe it was the last one, right?
Well, that's who he had a daughter with. And then there was another one. I can't keep up with how many girlfriends and wives he freaking had. I mean, he was. The dude was like, he was an interesting man. If you knew him on a personal basis, like a lot of people. On Facebook, I see people with like pictures of like, him on T-shirts as if he's like a freaking saint or something. And he would not want to have been remembered that way. He was like a down and dirty in the kitchen chef's dude who hung out with his sous chefs and his Mexican guys eating tacos after hours late at night. I remember driving him back from a thing that I went to, I don't know, it must have been 2004, 2005, I don't know. But I was at this thing with him and Eric Ripert and Mara Batali and like 15 other restaurant chefs in New York City. It was some type of, I don't remember exactly what event it was. It was some kind of a party. I think Drew Perrant was holding the party for one of his restaurants or something. Maybe it was during the holidays. And they got all fucked up drunk, like really messed up, right? So like I had a car Tony's like, Perlow, do you have a car? Like, can you drive us back uptown because you're going back to Jersey? I'm like, yeah, of course. So I threw him in the back of my Cadillac. Both of them are him and Repair are completely messed up. And I'm driving them back to, their apartments, later. So like, I knew the guys really well. I used to hang out with them occasionally. I was not like a groupie. I mean, they knew me because of the things I was involved in, they
were involved on the site anyway.
Yeah, they loved that stuff. I mean, because we were the source of like information and gossip and all that kind of crap. And this is like before Facebook, right? Because Facebook came out in like 2005.